Alas, here we are again with Frieren and another review that I have been just slacking on miserably with all the things going on in life and just this season busting out. I figured I'd at least get 5. I know I missed 4. It is what it is. So, this episode starts off pretty much beat for beat with the last episode, going into our discussions with Frieren and Eisen talking about going on this 10-year quest now with Fern to go see Himmel and Heitir at this heaven place, that her master set up, in that book that she knew essentially that Frieren was going to go through this type of phase in her life at one point and need this for her journey in life. So, we get this like nice reference flashback, and pretty much Eisen's telling Frieren that this is that 1 in 100th amount of time of your life that has changed you, because we get a flashback to when she was with the gang. I'm talking about how her adventure with them was even 100th of her life, but this 100th of her life has changed her that much into this matter of her being more of a considerate, almost mortal type of being-esque mindset, which is kind of neat, with the whole journey and everything. And so they start going on this journey, and Farron, likes to mention that, this journey's been half of her life, and Frieren's gonna add that smart-ass remark where it's gonna be even more that you're on this now, because obviously she'll be, 26, 27 at this point by the time this journey's done. Now we get a nice little flashback, of Fern and her nice Shisha Haite talking about the fact, that if she's a good girl and does what Frieren tells her to do, that, everything's going to be Gucci, but if you're a bad girl, he's going to come back and see her. But of course, she's a smart ass because she's been learning from Haite, knowing that if she's bad, she can see him again. But he rephrases that sentence because how clever she has gotten over time, and says, to the matter of fact, that if you're actually, the opposite of what I just told you, I'll actually come probably and see you and shit, which comes to fruition a little bit later on in this episode. Besides the fact that we're obviously, like I said, aiming to go to heaven to go see that, it still comes back to a frame later on, which is one of the reasons I really like this series, is like it does give you a lot of reference points to the past and like what's going on, but at the same time they come to like be explained or have something to do with the main storyline, and I think that's really cool and keeps that beat for beat ratio going on, especially if with some slower esque attention span people and the lack of action per se in this series. It really keeps you entwined and deep into the story. So they get to the next town that they're aiming for, which I believe was a 1-year time skip, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that, but I think there's 2 years that go along in this episode, and this is one of them. And they get to this city, and there's just a bunch of people missing, and they kind of find out the rumor is that, it's from they see ghosts, and then they just disappear. And obviously, like, Frieren knows this is not, like, just ghosts or anything, and that they're not undead corpses being controlled by magic, because, like, only things that they have for ghosts and like magic with their magic, pretty much reincarnations, like zombies and skeletons, not like actual life beings, because then you're gonna get into like reanimated corpses and they don't look exactly shot for shot. And she knows what they're dealing with and what specific type of monster it is, and that's a pretty nasty one. So they're going to try their best to avoid it on the way there. However, while, Frieren's just trying to get through quests in life and everything else, Friren's a good person, good-hearted soul, and wants to take care of these guys for this city. And of course Frieren goes along with it because if that's what she wants, that's what they can do, because this is about her. It's about both of them necessarily, but her in general with this kind of changing the out perspective of Frieren and all that fun jazz. Now they go looking for it, and they don't really sense too much right off the bat because of illusion magic. And pretty much Frieren just comes out and says it's an einsam, I believe. I don't know. Like I said, pronunciation is not my forte. I just love this shit. But she explains to Frieren, they use illusion magic to like dissociate people with, getting the most like close people in their lives to attach to them, and then it just comes and eats them. But to a mage, they're in a fret because you can easily, get rid of them using offensive magic. And Frieren goes to explain that, usually when she ran into him last time, it was her master begging for her life, and she just shoots her, which leads to concern with Frieren, and I agree with her wholeheartedly that, is that what she was accustomed to, hearing her master begging for her life? Like, it's like, oh man, that's some whack stuff there. But Frieren tells, Frieren, if you see, Phantom, don't hesitate to shoot it. And, well, lo and behold, like I said at the beginning of the episode, it kind of comes to fruition. We get to see Haiter, and he's in front of her, telling her how, like, he decided to pay her a visit because he's being a good girl. Like, obviously they read into their minds, and she's reading into her thoughts and just using this against her, especially after she recently had this dream, and thinking about that kind of stuff really affects her deeply. And, like, obviously it's kind of screwed up, but it's a good method for them to use to get into people's minds, because obviously it's working, right? So Frieren realizes, that maybe she can't really do it, and so she pulls out her staff, and instead of getting her master this time, like she always has, she gets Himmel, and of course her imagination of Himmel tells her to shoot him, because he was like a selfless person, and just a good influence on Frieren in general, and he shoots her down, and we get to see Frieren on the other side getting the illusion dissolved, and seeing the actual creature itself, and Frieren comes and shoots the mother effer down in an instant, no hesitation whatsoever. And they kind of discuss a little bit of, what they saw and the differences, and obviously the fact that she could do it. It's just, it's so fresh, and she's so young. It all kind of adds up into that type of territory. So get another year skip, and we see this dragon with a grimoire down there that, of course, Frieren wants, because she's obsessed with learning spells. So she tells Frieren to shoot this dragon, right? And it's a solar dragon. And so she shoots it, and absolutely nothing happens. Like, this thing's totally unfazed. So what do? They run. And they run hard. And Frieren didn't think she was going to make it out of this situation. And Frieren's just kind of like talking about strategics, how about they can't beat an aerial battle. Maybe they'll go back and, shoot it again and just keep doing this, a back and forth till it finally dies. And obviously Frieren thought she was going to die, so she does not want to do that again, right? Like, she's begging not to get this done. So she lets go, and Frieren's like, fine, we'll just have to find, somebody on the front lines. Which leads us to a back shot again with Ison talking to Frieren around this fire about how there is a actual guy that Ison trained in this village. His name is Stark. And Frieren asks if he's a good warrior, but before we can get an answer to that, instantly we get back to the present, which leads us to this new city. And, Frieren wants to know what the spell is that she's trying to acquire from this, and it turns out it's just a spell where you can see through people's clothes. But before, Frieren gets any lewd thoughts, we get Frieren talking about the fact that you can see people's weapons and stuff. It's not just for that type of lewd-esque stuff, So we get into the village to learn more information, right? And we run into this old lady who apparently knows that Mr. Stark, the guy that, was the trainee of Ison, and he wants to meet with them. So we get to meet with him, and we get a flashback pretty much of what happened with Ison, and they're kind of explaining how this dragon came to the city, which is the one they attacked. And apparently he stood his ground to the dragon, and he's never coming back since, and that's been like 3 years. And so they get to meet with him, and he's pretty much trying to chew those two out for like making the dragon angry, and so it doesn't come to the city, yada yada yada. And he's trying to gloat about everything, and the scar that he has on his head from a shadow dragon apparently. And Frieren calls him out and says it's not really that serious of an injury, and she says who she is to him, obviously that they know Ison and everything. So he sends Granny away. And when Granny goes away, those two ask why he hasn't defeated the dragon whatsoever. And before they, get to the nitty gritty, she asks, plain as day, that, if he would help with killing this dragon. And of course, he gets in defense mode instantly. He's like, well, man, this is a solar dragon. I don't know if we can defeat this. And then he kind of trying to find out why Frieren even wants to defeat it in the first place, and tells him why, and that the fact that, Himmel and all those other people actually kind of enjoyed his stupid spells. However, it's kind of a stupid thing. But like she enjoyed it, and everybody else enjoyed it, so it's just a hobby she ended up collecting, you know. And so Himmel goes, you know, he had trouble defeating it alone. And he didn't ask for her to help because in reality, he didn't even confront the dragon. Like, he got there and, like, he didn't move a muscle and the dragon didn't move a muscle, but everybody else was looking away. So, like, the dragon just left, right? And they treated him like a king. And then in reality, he didn't do shit to fight this dragon, right? But obviously, Farron's in disarray, not wanting to add him to the group, but Frieren tells him, you know, he has until tomorrow morning to make up his mind because she kind of checks out the surrounding area and this crevice in the wall that leads to like this huge valley. And we don't really get described what it is quite yet, but we will in a little bit. Now, Frieren and Fern are at the diner, like this, like, I'd say just, you know, establishment, which I'm assuming is connected to the room. It's pretty much just a bar. And, you know, they're talking and listening about people talking about Stark and how useful he is. And obviously, Frieren doesn't believe it, but Frieren does, right? So they leave, you know, to go to bed finally. And Frieren, you know, is wondering why the dragon doesn't attack the village. And before they can even get to that, they're trying to figure out what the sound is, right? And Frieren don't really care. She sees the moon, gets ready for bed, thinks back to this vision again about how Ison said, you know, that he did the same thing as him. You know, when his village was in trouble, he ran away and he was a coward. However, he's got potential. Like, he's got huge potential if he really had some, like, chance to show it. And we gotta go back to Starn again, and he's freaking just blasting through this thing with his big axe, right? Just destroying ways to this. And Farn goes to check it out and realizes that it was him that was doing it. And he just needs that push and encouragement to be able to defeat these monsters, right? Even Ison, who was a coward and ran away, was able to prove himself in that manner. And I think that's exactly what he wants for Stark and everything else, right? But that's the end of the episode. Overall, it was a pretty great episode. I'm looking forward to next week for sure. After watching 4 in a row, it just felt really short. However, that's the pace of life, and that's what it is. And I love this series to death. It's kind of a slow one to talk about, but I love it, and I hope you all love it too. So if you enjoy this video, please leave a like. It means a lot to me. And if you really like this and enjoy my content, hit the subscribe button. I upload 4 times a week. Right now I'm covering this and Goblin Slayer and Eminence in Shadows and Ragnar Crimson. And normally I kind of, you know, switch it up, and every now and then I'll do my podcast, and then I'll do my reviews of random stuff, just to kind of have been watching or thoughts on my head. So yeah, with that being said, this has been Squids, and I guess I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.